Hi guys, it's me Renee. So, start recording. Hi guys, it's me Renee, and this is the Truth Factor, and I am looks like I am good on Josh Who TV here, and we are good on. Looks like we're good on YouTube. Let me see. Yay. Alrighty. Hey. No, I did not get into the 299 Days book, JR. What is it about? Just out of curiosity. How are you? See if I can. Hey Deb, how are you? Okay. I don't have a whole lot of articles today. Um, again, I've been kind of busy, but watching some of that debacle going on the impeachment proceedings, hearings, and whatnot, and it's just aggravating to say the least. And what I would like to say and tell you guys, I don't think, I think for sure I'd get out of here. So I might make another video for Brighton. I am hooked up to Brighton. I finally, I believe, got everything set up for D Live. So on D Live, it's just Truth Factor. And on Brighton, I believe it's under Truth Factor. It might be under Renee Thomas, though. But I think it's Truth Factor as well. And so I might make a video for those two places later today and tell you my honest opinion of what's going on and what's happening and everything. I don't know. I hope everybody is not walking around with blinders on. I hope people weren't thinking that they were going to get some kind of big, explosive results from today's OIG report. And I hope it wasn't a letdown. I keep telling everyone, you can't allow, hey, Helen, you can't allow the FBI to investigate the FBI, And although the OIG is, the intelligence investigator, he's still a department of the FBI. And, you just can't allow people to investigate themselves. That's all I'm saying. And just from past reports, I had uh-oh, you got 20 minutes. Okay. Just from all the stuff going on and everything, from other reports, it was a big letdown. Every single one of his reports, he kind of just, so I've never put it too much in there. Of course, I think if there was any doubt that OIG was deep state, I believe that all of that got expelled today. But let's start. Hey, Scott, how are you? Well, I hope, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Hi, Carol. How are you, honey? Um, I'm hoping, though. I mean, the way Durham is talking, if you go by Durham, yes, maybe, possibly. But if you go by the OIG report, I really believe it was a letdown. Yeah, me neither. I wasn't surprised at all. Um, hubby's got something to say.
Yep.
So we'll listen to him for a second.
Yeah, like you say, the FBI checking in the FBI. So what's next? Are we going to let the criminals police themselves now? I mean, that's basically what you're doing. You're letting the criminals police themselves. I mean, the FBI is the one that's done the wrongdoing. You're going to have the FBI be the ones that investigate them. Not even the police force has their own people do it. They have internal affairs to take care of it.
Right, but it's still a connection of the police department, though. Even though it's internal affairs.
No, it's independent. The internal affairs is independent from the police department.
Is it?
Yes.
I was always under the understanding that it was.
No,
still,
it's independent. It's not part of that police force at all.
Yeah.
That's why the cops get so ticked off every time internal affairs comes into their office to do something.
The conclusions starting on page 410 are pretty damn neat, yet handled with kid gloves. Exactly, Carol. I mean, now, don't get me wrong. Horowitz will put out all kinds of truths in his reports, but there's always it's always acceptable. There's nothing oh, it might have been mishandling or misrepresentation, something along that lines, but it's never their fault, or it's acceptable, so I just really was not shocked by no means today. I hope and pray you guys weren't. I do hope, though, that a lot of that Gitmo does get busy. I do, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. Let me see. I don't know which one of these articles I want to start with, guys. I have like 3 different articles. Let's see. Okay, let's start with an article from Zero Hedge, and it says the DOJ Inspector General releases the report on the FBI conduct and finds clear abuse of the FISA process. The Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz has released his report into the FBI's investigation of the Trump campaign during the 2016 U.S. election. The report concludes that despite nearly everybody investigating President Trump hating him, and that the evidence was fabricated by at least one FBI attorney, and they have misrepresented the Christopher Steele credentials. None of their bias tainted the investigation, and the underlying process was sound. That said, Horowitz faults the FBI for significant inaccuracy and omissions in their applications to secretly monitor Trump's campaign advisor Carter Page, and agents failed to meet the basic obligation to ensure the applications were scrupulously accurate. It said there's a couple of tweets here from Brad Heath, the RTRS, U.S. Justice Department Inspector General finds opening of FBI probe into Trump campaign advisors was a legitimate, properly authorized congressional source. Then Tom Fitton kind of puts it out there that the IG has 17 errors in the Carter Page FISA warrants targeting at the real Donald Trump. No responsible explanation for the errors. So he's telling you that there's 17 errors in that report that he knows of. And I don't know how many of you guys have been honestly following everything from the beginning of all of this when it first started on unfolding. But if you were paying attention to Tom Fitton, and Judicial Watch, basically they have enough evidence, in my opinion, that a bunch of people should have already been locked up and prosecuted. So it's kind of like, the information that he has, does Horowitz and, the deep state, the Democrats, do they think that we don't know the information that Tom Fitton has been putting out there, or that he has? I don't know. It kind of sounds crazy, doesn't it? Then it goes on to say, Attorney General William Barr, meanwhile, says that the report now makes clear that the FBI launched an intrusive, okay, the FBI launched an intrusive investigation of a U.S. presidential campaign on the thinnest of suspicions that, in my view, were insufficient to justify the steps taken. So, Attorney William Barr says that it was intrusive and it was insufficient to justify the steps that were taken. Jack Posbiak says, AG on Twitter, AG Barr, the evidence produced by the investigation was consistently exploratory. Nevertheless, the investigation and the surveillance was pushed forward for the duration of the campaign and into deep President Trump's administration. The FBI used confidential human sources on Carter Page and George Papadopoulos before and after they joined the Trump campaign. And then there's I don't know, it looks like a piece of an article. It says, thereafter, the Crossfire Hurricane team used more intrusive techniques, including the CHS, to interact and consensually record multiple conversations with Page and Papadopoulos, both before and after they were working for the Trump campaign, as well as one occasion with high-level Trump campaign official. It says, I have the utmost respect for the mission of the Office of Inspector General and the comprehensive work that went out into the report prepared by Mr. Horowitz and his staff. However, our investigation is not limited to developing information from within a component parts of the Justice Department. Our investigation has included developing information from other persons and entities, both in the U.S. and outside of the U.S., based on the evidence collected to date. And while our investigation is ongoing, last month we advised the Inspector General that we do not agree with some of the report's conclusions as to the prediction and how the FBI case was opened. U.S. Attorney John Durham. So obviously there's a whole lot of conflict or disagreements in the way that this case was opened. Durham and Barr both say that there was, insufficient evidence, and, Horowitz is saying that it was. But again, he is making sure that, he covers the FBI, because of course, that's what this is all about, is trying to save grace and put a little dignity and respect back into the FBI. But I just think that we as Americans, given everything that they have done from the HRC emails and everything else, we should wash our hands of them. I have anyway. Horowitz also found that the Steele dossier provided probable cause to spy on Carter Page, and that the FISA application drew heavily upon the Steele reporting to support the government's position that the Page was a Russian agent. Sean Davis tweeted that the DOJ IG determined that the Steele dossier is what provided the probable cause for the government to spy on Carter Page, and that the FISA application drew heavily upon the Steele reporting to support the government's position that Page was a Russian agent. And then there is a highlight of the OIG report, and it does say the first FISA application drew heavily what he just said. Okay, it says the following 7 significant inaccuracy and omissions were found in the first FISA application. And here are the first 7 omissions. And it says the first one was that it was omitted information that the FBI had obtained from another U.S. government agency detailing its prior relationship with Page, including that Page had been approved as an operational contact for the other agency from 2008 to 2013, and that Page had provided information to the other agencies concerning his prior contacts with certain Russian intelligence officers, one of which overlapped with facts asserted in the FISA application. Included a source characterization statement asserting that Steele's prior reporting had been corroborated and used in criminal proceedings, which overstated the significance of Steele's past reporting and was not approved by Steele's handling agent, as required by Wood's procedures. 3. They omitted the information relevant to the reliability of Person 1, a key Steele subsource who was attributed with providing the information in Report 95, and some of the information in Report 80 and 102 relied upon it in the application, namely that Steele himself told members of the Crossfire Hurricane team that Person 1 was a booster and the egotist and may engage in some embellishment. 4. They asserted that the FBI had assessed the Steele did not directly provide to the press information in September 23rd in the Yahoo News article, based on the premise that Steele had told the FBI that he only shared his election-related research with the FBI and Fusion GPS. His client. This premise was incorrect and contradicted by documentation in the Woods file. Steele and told the FBI that he also gave his information to the State Department. Omitted. Papadopoulos consensually monitors statements to an FBI CHS in September of 2016, denying that anyone associated with the Trump campaign was collaborating with Russia or with outside groups like WikiLeaks in the release of emails. 6. Omitted. Pages consensually monitored statements to an FBI CHS in August of 2016 that Page had literally never met or said one word to Paul Manafort, and the Manafort had not responded to any of Page's emails. If true, those statements were intentions with claims in Report 95 that Page was participating in the conspiracy with Russia by acting as an intermediary for Manafort on behalf of the Trump campaign, and include Page's consensually monitored statements to an FBI CHS in October 2016 that the FBI believed supporting its theory that Page was an agent of the Russia, but omitted other statements Page made that they were inconsistent with the theory, including denying having met with Shen and Duyvnken, or even knowing who Duyvnken was. If true, those statements contradicted the claims in Report 94 that the Page had met secretly with Shen and Duyvnken about future cooperation with Russia and shared derogatory information about the candidate. Clinton, none of these inaccuracies and omissions were brought to the attention of the OI before the last FISA application was filed in June 2017. Consequently, these failures were repeated in all 3 renewal applications. Further, as we discussed later, we identified 10 additional significant errors in the renewal applications. The failures to provide accurate and complete information to the OI attorney concerning Page's prior relationship with another U.S. government agency. Item 1 above was particularly concerning because the OI attorney had specifically asked the case agent in late September 2016 where Carter Page had a current or prior relationship with other agencies. In response to that inquiry, the case agent advised that the OI attorney that Page's relationship was dated, claiming it was when Page lived in Moscow in 2004 to 2007, and the outside scope. The representation, however, was contrary to the information that the other agency had provided to the FBI in August of 2016, which stated that Page was approved as an operational contact of the other agencies from 2008 to 2013, after Page had left Moscow. Thus, the FBI relied upon Page's contact with the intelligence office, one among others in support of its probable cause statement, in that the FISA application, while failing to disclose to the OI or the FISC that the one page had been approved as the operational contact by the other agency during a 5-year period that developed with allegations in the FISA application. Page and disclosed to the other agency contact that had with Intelligence Officer 1 and certain other individuals, and 3, the agency's employee had given positive assessment of Page's candor. The FBI also used Steele to gather information on former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. It says IG report. The FBI used Christopher Steele to get information on General Flynn. FBI promised Steele he would be paid significantly for this information. Case Agent 2 told the OIG that he informed Steele that the FBI was interested in obtaining information in 3 buckets. According to the Case Agent's 2 written summary of the meeting, as well as the supervisory intel analyst notes, these 3 buckets were one was additional intelligence reporting on specific named individuals such as Page or Flynn involved in facilitating the Trump campaign Russian relationship, physical evidence of specific individuals involved in facilitating the Trump campaign Russian relationship, such as emails, photos, ledgers, memorandums, etc., and any individuals or subsources who Steele could identify who could serve as cooperating witnesses to assist in identifying persons involved in the Trump campaign Russian relationships. Case Agent 2 written summary of this meeting also indicates that Case Agent 2 explained that the FBI was willing to compensate Steele significantly for information concerning the 3 buckets, and that Steele would be paid $15,000 for his trip to the European city for the early October meeting. August 2016, it says the FBI selected SSA, the supervisor of the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, to provide the FBI security briefings for Trump and Clinton. The SSA 1 told us that one of the reasons for this election was ODNI, and informed the FBI that one of the 2 Trump campaign advisors attending the August 17th briefing would be Flynn. He further stated that the briefing provided him the opportunity to gain assessment and possibly have some level of familiarity with Flynn. So should we get to the point where we need to be subject interview, I would have to be fall back on, asked to explain what he meant by the assessment that the SSA-1 continued. Flynn's overall mannerisms, and they also, if they are anything specific to Russia or anything specific to our investigation, that was mentioned by him, or quite frankly, we had an investigation, right? And any other 2 individuals in the room, if they are any kind of admission over here, whatever it was, I was there to record that. The SSA told that he did not recall specific internal FBI discussions about having him provide the FBI security briefings for Trump and Clinton, but believes that the group who likely would have been part of such discussions, Stroke and the Intel Section Chief, and possibly Lisa Page, shared a general understanding of the reason for doing so. The SSA-1 also told us that using this opportunity to interact with the subject of an investigation is not unusual for the FBI, and that in its instance is actually proved useful because the SSA-1 was able to compare Flynn's norms with the briefing with Flynn's conduct at the interview that SSA-1 conduct on January 24th, 2017. So of course now we're critiquing someone's mannerisms, and we're going to convict them and say they're guilty. And who's not going to be nervous when you're under investigation? So your mannerisms are going to change regardless. The mere fact that they hang everything on such wording or anything to that nature is just ridiculous, guys. Representative Devin Nunes suggested that the DOJ IG report makes clear that the Republican FISA abuse memo from February 2018 was accurate and actually understated that the FISA abuse the dirty cops engaged. And Devin Nunes, quote, looks like the DOJ IG report is clear that the Republican FISA abuse memo from February 2018 was accurate and actually understated the FISA abuse the dirty cops engaged in. Time for FISA court to take action. Mark Meadows tweeted, after reading this, it's no wonder we've been seeing defensive leaks in New York Times and CNN, and that the Democrats rushed to hold an impeachment hearing the same day. It's every bit as bad as advertised, and certainly worse than the media has been suggesting. Then he's got a couple other tweets. It says, I just got out of a nearly 2-hour briefing on the IG report. It is deeply disturbing. Some former FBI and DOJ officials are about to have some serious explaining to do. More details to come shortly. Then Representative Jim Jordan says, we thought that they spied on 2 Americas. We now know it was 4. The Inspector General report confirms what many of us feared. James Comey, FBI, ignored guidelines and rules in spying on the President Trump campaign in 2016. Representative Jim Jordan again says, we know that within 1 week of the investigation opening, the FBI was surveilling the campaign and 4 specific individuals associated with it. And for those of you that don't know already, whenever I give an article from Zero Hedge, usually all of the documentation. So if you have not seen a report of the OIG report, it is in the Zero Hedge article, and all you have to do is click on my I believe I put it in there, guys. Double check. Yep, it's there. All you got to do is click on the Wixit site, the Renee Thomas 24 Wixit site, and it'll take you to all the articles that I'm going through today. And you can see this article, and there's the whole 476 pages of that article. It says, something to keep in mind from Rolling Stone's Matt Taibbi. Conservative media will find it damning, while MSNBC, CNN types, if they cover it all, it will call it a nothing burger. And then Kimberly Strassel says, don't lose focus, Democrats and media scribes want to now claim IG report is about whether the FBI was allowed to investigate the Trump campaign. That's a straw man. FBI was sweeping powers to investigate. Nobody has ever denied that. Number 2, Horowitz was instead asked to investigate whether the FBI abused its powers as part of its probe, namely if it abused the FISA process. Was it honest to the court about its sources? Did it include exploratory evidence? That did it doctor anything? And I think that we can all say that it, like I said, again, if you've been following all of this information that Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch and Jim Jordan and all of them that have been putting out there, I say that there's more than sufficient evidence to prove that they have withheld, doctored, whatever you want to call it, information for sure. Okay, then we do have an article from Zero Hedge that kind of gives you a little bit different information about the report, and basically it tells you that the IG report confirms, though, that Brennan lied through his teeth about the Steele dossier. While the hotly anticipated IG FISA report was perhaps the world's loudest wrist slap, resulting in just 1 criminal referral, despite a mountain of evidence that the FBI's top brass made serious errors while investigating the Trump campaign, the Federalist Madeleine Osborne points out that the former CIA director, John Brenner, was caught in a lie when he said that he did not rely on the infamous Steele dossier for the Obama administration intelligence community assessment, the ICA. The ICA report, thrown together over the course of the month, was used to inform President Barack Obama and then the president-elect Donald Trump in January of 2017 if Russia efforts to interfere in the 26th U.S. election. According to the Monday's FISA report, there was significant discussion on whether to include the Steele dossier in the main body of the ICA report, with the former FBI director Deputy Director Andrew McCabe saying that he felt strongly that the Steele election reporting belonged in the body of the ICA because he heard that placing it in the appendix was tacking it on it anyway. That would minimize the information and prevent it from being properly considered. Ultimately, the ICA included a short summary and an assessment of the dossier, which was incorporated in an appendix. In the appendix, the intelligence agency explained that there was only a limited incorporation of the sources reporting, and the Steele's election reports were not used to reach an analytic conclusions of the CIA, FBI, NSA assessment, the IG report states from the Federalist. And I just want to point out, what is Flynn in trouble for, guys? Flynn is in trouble for supposedly lying, right? So if they have evidence that Brennan has lied, I think that he should be in trouble as well. Just saying. And here it says, here is Brennan's lie. Several months after the ICA report was released on May 23, 2017, Brennan told the House Intelligence Committee that the CIA did not rely on the Steele dossier for the ICA report in any way. Mr. Gowdy, do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as any part of any court filings, application, petitions, or pleadings? Mr. Brennan, I have no awareness. Mr. Gowdy, did the CIA rely on it? Mr. Brennan, no. Mr. Gowdy, why not? Mr. Brennan, because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of the intelligence information, and that we had. It was not in a way used as bias for the intelligence community assessment. That was done. It was not. The Federalist. Except on page 179 of the FISA report, we find that the former FBI director, James Comey, told the investigators that he remembers being part of the conversation, maybe more than one conversation, where the topic was how the Steele reporting would be integrated, if at all, into the IC assessment. Comey added that Brennan and other officials argued that the Steele dossier was found credible by the intelligence community analysts, and that while they did not want to conclude it in the main body of the ICA, they thought it was important enough and consistent enough that it ought to be part of the package in some way, and so they had to come up with the ideal to make it an appendix. We asked Comey whether he recalled having a conversation within the CIA director, John Brennan, or any other member of the USIC about how the Steele election report should be presented to the president. Comey stated, I remember being part of a conversation, maybe more than one conversation, where the topic was how the Steele reporting would be integrated, if at all, into the IC assessment. And I don't remember participating in debates about that. I was just told in a meeting with Clapper and Brennan and Rogers, then the NSA director, that the IC analysts found it credible on its face and gravemen of it, and the consistent with our information, but not in a position where they would integrate it into the IC assessment, but that they thought it was important enough and consistent enough that it ought to be part of the package in some way. And so they had come up with this ideal to make an appendix. I remember, I don't think I was part of the debate about that, as I said, but I remember a conversation where I was told that's how it would be handled. And my reaction was, okay, that's reasonable. And again, so there's confirmation again that Brennan lied. And again, is anything being done? Has there been charges filed that we know of? The answer to that question is no, there hasn't. I believe my little thing over here would be all red and lit up with all this incoming information. Uh-oh, Duke is at the doctor's. Oh, what joy, Duke. How are you, sweetheart? Let's see. Okay, so I don't know if everyone saw, or I'm sure by now somebody has laid eyes on this little video that was floating around on Twitter about, at first you didn't know who it was, but that somebody had been carted out of the hearing because they stood up and they were hollering what a sham it was and that the American people did not approve of this. Well, it was actually InfoWars host that was in there, Owen Schroer. He interrupted the Monday impeachment, and I'm going to play it. I don't know if you guys have heard it or not, but I'm going to try and see if this will play, guys, so you can hear it.
After that, we will hear two sets of presentations. We will hear 30-minute opening arguments from counsels for the majority and the minority of this committee. Order in the room. Order in the room. Order in the committee room.
Yay for the yelling guy. Exactly. Good.
They need to have that every day.
They need to have somebody up there every day. And yeah, somebody's speaking up. And see, the only thing of it is we should have more people up there speaking up. This is ridiculous. I mean, kudos to Owen. I mean, he's my hero. He is today's hero. That is for sure. I mean, I kept telling my mom that I wanted to be there today. If I could have, managed it, we would have went to Washington to be out there picketing against this debacle of a impeachment hearing crap that took place today. But of course, with Christmas coming up, it just doesn't pan out like that, guys. But it's crazy stuff. But anyway, so this article from Brett Barr says that InfoWars host Owen Schroer interrupted Monday's impeachment hearing before the House Judiciary Committee, shouting it is Chairman Jerry Nadler and the Democratic Party who are committing treason against this country, adding they are trying to remove a President Trump because they don't like him. Within minutes of the session, shouts from Schroer filled the room as Nadler spoke. Jerry Nadler and the Democrat Party are committing treason against this country. You can kick me out, but he's the one committing crimes. You are Jerry Nadler, Schroer shouted. You're the one committing treason. America is done with this. America is sick of the treason committed by the Democratic Party. We're not going to sit here and watch you run an impeachment scam and remove our vote, he continued, live streaming his protest. We voted for Donald Trump, and they're simply removing him because they don't like him, he added. Americans are sick of your impeachment scam. They're sick of the Democratic treason. We know who committed the crimes, and it wasn't Trump. Trump is innocent. The protest came amid the House Judiciary Committee's second public impeachment hearing, dubbed an evidence hearing into the impeachment of the president. Staff counsels from the House Judiciary Committee and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence are expected to present evidence for and against the impeachment. The Judiciary Committee's report laying out the legal and constitutional framework for the impeachment does not necessarily rule out treason, as Brett Barr News extensively detailed. So is that not just a little funny? I was like all excited when I heard that, and I just, kudos to him, guys. Kudos, kudos, kudos. Anyway, so then we have, we're going to switch gears a little bit. I think I have a couple of articles about Rudy Giuliani that pertains to the Ukraine and all this mess, but we're going to kind of save them for the last of the show. I have some other articles I want to get into, and I love Rudy Giuliani, and I believe that it is important that we hear all of the truth. And I don't know if all of you know this, but Rudy has actually taken an OANN reporter to Ukraine, and has been interviewing Porshkin and all of them people over there, trying to get evidence, because of course our government is not allowing visas to bring these people back. Yep, they sure did. And So they have been doing an exceptional job, I think, an exceptional job. And so I'm pretty excited to see these final couple of days releases. And I'm only getting to see them when people post it on Twitter because unfortunately we don't get OANN in our area. It drives me crazy. But anyway, so I have to rely on people to share that information. So if any of you out there have OANN and you want to share those videos, I'd appreciate it. Anyway, so like I said, we're going to shift gears just a little bit. This here article also comes from Zero Hedge, and it says the Pentagon has shift focus ahead of the next war and wants to relocate troops to the Indo-Pacific region. Very little headlines come out of the Middle East these days about the 2-decade war that the U.S. has been fighting against terrorism. But what you hear on an increasing frequency are headlines outlining how Russia and China are the new enemies. The shift happened several years ago when the U.S. military figured out the great power competition was underway. Instead of fighting unconventional enemies in the deserts of the Middle East, the Pentagon is preparing of a major conflict against Russia and China. To do this, President Trump ramped up military spending to record amounts to prepare forces for future conflict. Hundreds of billions of dollars are being plowed into hypersonics, fifth-generation fighters and bombers, directed energy, space, cyber, quantum science, artificial intelligence, and automation. The realignment of the Pentagon's crosshairs was recently confirmed by the Indo-Pacific Command, Defense Secretary Mark Esper, who said over the weekend that the U.S. forces need to be deployed in a more significant number to the Asia-Pacific region to confront a rising China, reported Bloomberg. And I believe if you recall, yesterday we read an article where China actually has set up shop, I guess, over there across from Taiwan. And so they're pretty close. Anyway, with their missiles and all that good stuff. What I want to do is relocate forces, Esper said Saturday, and that the Reagan National Defense Forum, when asked about slashing troop numbers in Afghanistan, that's my priority theater, Esper said. I'm not just looking at Afghanistan, but all these places where I can free up troops to bring them home or compete with the Chinese to reassure our allies and to conduct exercises and training. The Trump administration published in the 2018 National Defense Strategy that outlines after 2 decades of fighting terrorists in the Middle East, the military must address the Russia and China in great power competition. Our warfighting advantages over the strategic competitors are being challenged, Esper said. China and Russia, today's revisionist powers, are modernizing their militaries while seeking veto power over the economic and security decisions of other nations. What's evident is that the U.S. is falling into Thyistus trap. It's when one great power threatens to displace another, and the war is always inevitable on a long enough timeline. The Pentagon realignment of the enemy has unleashed an economic war on Russia and China. Washington is in sanctioning Russia, while on another front launched a trade war and China to halt its economic and military accessions. The economic wars between the U.S. and China and Russia have also kicked off a technology war that has morphed into an artificial intelligence arms race, which is setting the stage for a heightened geopolitical uncertainties through the 2020s as the world inches closer to a shooting war. And again, who knows where we're going there right now, guys. It's anybody's guess. But I do want to follow that up with this article from the Brett Barr, where it says the Chinese Communist Party orders government offices to remove foreign computers. The Chinese Communist Party has reportedly ordered all government offices and public institutions to remove any foreign computer equipment and software over the course of the next 3 years. This includes products from U.S. companies like HP, Dell, and Microsoft. The Financial Times reports that to boost the use of products from domestic technology vendors, Beijing has ordered all of the public institutions and government offices to remove any foreign-made computer equipment and software over the next 3 years. This move could have a negative effect on companies such as HP, Dell, and Microsoft, which all produce software and hardware used throughout China. And in my opinion, I think that we need to follow this up, and we need to get rid of all of our made in China computers. I know that that would be probably a very hard task, considering almost everything is made in China, that comes down to it with electronical wise. But I think that we might can, maybe that's something that they need to boost over here is, more places that, make Apple products or these computer components and things of that nature, so that we can actually have American-based technology and not so much count on these things from China. Anyway, it says the move is part of a larger effort to increase China's reliance on domestic technologies and could add to worries of decoupling between U.S. businesses and Chinese supply chains. Washington banned the U.S. firms from doing business with Chinese telecom firm Huawei earlier this year and is now investigating ways to support its European rivals. It was recently proposed by the United States that technology sales into the U.S. from foreign adversaries would be investigated for national security threats. The U.S. has reportedly been pressuring European allies to freeze Huawei out of the 5G infrastructure projects. It is estimated by an analysis that at China Securities that between 20 and 30 million pieces of the hardware will need to be swapped out due to the new Chinese directive. Most of the large-scale replacement is expected to begin next year. The substitutions will take place at a pace of 30% in 2020, 50% in 2021, 20% the year after, and with the policy being nicknamed 352. Paul Triliola of the consultancy Eurasia Group noted that the recent U.S. sanctions have added urgency to the hardware replacement project. China's 352 program is just of the tip of the new spear, said Triola. The goal is clear, getting to a space largely free of the type of threats that the ZTE, Hawaii, Maglev, and Sargon now face. And that is that article. Now, we've been talking about Russia and China. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Moscow and what they're doing. Hey, Joe, how are you? Oh, how are you? So good to see you. I'm so glad you came to see me. Are you from Marv? Anyway, so now we're going to read this article from RT, and it says Moscow to rearm all Northern Fleet units with the S-400s to create anti-missile dome over the Russian Arctic. And just so that you know, Joe, I don't know how long you've been here listening, but I do want you to know that there is a link in the description box to a Wixit site, and that is where you will find all of these articles that you can read at your own leisure. It says the anti-aircraft regiment of Russia's Northern Fleet will be equipped with the state-of-the-art S-400 air defense system in the next few years, to create an anti-missile dome able to thwart any enemy incursion, that Russian Navy said. Russian anti-aircraft missiles forces and radio technology troops stationed in the Arctic are going through a comprehensive rearmament process, which will see Russia's most advanced long-range air defense missile system being delivered to them. Vice Admiral Alexander Moskva, the commander of Russian Northern Fleet, said on Sunday. All Russian military units in the region are set to be equipped with the S-400 over the coming year. He noted that the buildup will protect Russia's part of the Arctic with the Moskva called a de facto anti-missile dome. effectively impenetrable for any type of weaponry, including the enemy aircraft, cruise, and ballistic missile. Russia has been boosting its military presence in the Arctic in recent years, building and repairing bases and airfields, as well as deploying its newest hardware and holding drills in response to increased military activity by Western nations in the resource-rich region, which has gained strategic importance due to the vast resources of the geographic position. And if you remember, not too long ago, everybody was laughing at Donald Trump when he was talking about buying Greenland. But in all honesty, it was a very wise move. Now we're rushing to get men back up in Iceland and in that area to protect that part of the world for that waterway. New base in U.S. Japan bought an island, South China Sea. Yep, exactly, Cody. And you know it, honey. You know it. Carol said so. Uh-oh. And then it says the share of new technology and weaponry deployed with the Russian troops in the Arctic currently amounts to about 60%, Mazev said. In September, Russia deployed the S-400 air defense system to the Yansy island of the Novy Zemlya archipelago in the northern Russia, further expanding the airspace under its control. Well, thank you, Deb. Thank you so much. And okay. So then last night I did a quick little video to give everyone the news that was coming out, and this here is an update on that volcano that erupted in New Zealand, guys. This comes from Reuters, and it says that no signs of life on New Zealand volcano island after disaster waiting to happen. It says that the Wakan, New Zealand said on Thursday that 8 people were missing, presumed dead, a day after the volcano unexpectedly erupted off the coast of New Zealand's North Island, killing at least 5 people and injuring more than 30. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern told reporters in Wakatan, a town near the volcanic White Island tourist attraction, that the aerial reconnaissance flights had shown no signs of life. It's now clear that there were 2 groups on the island, those who were able to be evacuated and those who were close to the eruption, Ardern told reporters. New Zealanders and tourists from Australia, the United States, Britain, China, Malaysia were among the missing and injured, she said, adding that there were 2 explosions in the quicksand sessions. No further details were given. To those who have lost or are missing family and friends, we share in your unfathomable grief in the moment at time and in your sorrow, Ardern said. Waco Police Superintendent Bruce Bird said 47 people visited the island on Monday. 5 were confirmed to have been killed and 8 were missing. Some 31 were in the hospital and 3 had been discharged. Police said that they did not expect to find any more survivors from the eruption, which spewed a plume of ash thousands of feet into the air. Many of the injured were in critical condition, most from burns, Ardern said. White Island is about 50 kilometers from the east of North Island, and huge plumes were visible from the mainland. Volcanologists said the ash plume shot 12,000 feet into the air. White Island has been a disaster waiting to happen for many years, said Ray Koss, a professor emeritus at Monash University, in comments published by the Australian Science Media Centre. Having visited twice, I have always felt that it was way too dangerous to allow daily tour groups that visit the uninhabited island volcano by boat and helicopter. Bird said rescue services were working to return to the island and were relying on advice from the scientific and technical experts meeting in Wellington on Monday. We will only go to the island if it is safe for our people, said Bird. Many day tours visit the island regularly, one from 16-deck cruise liner Ovation of the Seas, was there at the time. Arden said helicopters made a deliberate decision to fly to the island to rescue survivors immediately after the eruption. I want to acknowledge the courageous decision made by first responders and those pilots who immediately rescued effort made an incredibly brave decision under extraordinary dangerous circumstances in an attempt to get people out, Arden said. As a result of their efforts, a number of people were rescued from the island. Janet Ure, 61, a nurse from Richmond, Virginia, said her son Matthew, 36, was injured in the eruption while on a honeymoon. The phone rang at midnight. Then I heard a voicemail come on. It was my son. He said, "Mom, this is not a joke. A volcano erupted while we were on the island. We're at the hospital with severe burns." She has been frustrated by the lack of information from the cruise ship he was on and from authorities. "I have not heard a word from the cruise people. I just want the word out there. I'm not really happy with how this has been handled," she added. A crater rim camera owned by the operated by New Zealand science agency GeoNet showed a group of people walking toward and away from the rim inside the crater from which the white vapor constantly billows in the hour leading up to the eruption. Michael Shade, an engineering manager from San Francisco, was one of the tourists who made it off the island just before the eruption. "This is so hard to believe," Shade said in a video posted on Twitter as he sped away from the island by boat. "Our whole tour group was literally standing at the edge of the main crater not 30 minutes before." Geological hazard tracker GeoNet raised the alert level for the White Island volcano in November due to an increase in volcanic activity. The volcano's last fatal eruption was in 1914 when it killed 12 sulfur miners. There was a short-lived eruption in April 2016. Daily tours allowed more than 10,000 people to visit the volcano every year. Wakaria has it's known in the Maori language. It's New Zealand's most active cone volcano, built by a continuous volcanic activity over the past 150,000 years, GeoNet said. About 70% is undersea, making the massive volcano structure the largest in New Zealand. And it is extremely sad, guys, to hear that there was so many people over there. And I just want to know, I mean, are these people, I know there had to be some warnings, you know. They had to be watching the earthquakes, the movement. They had to be monitoring, you know, the amount of steam that was coming out. There had to be evidence that this was going to explode. I just don't believe that it just all of a sudden, you know, went poof. You know, I just don't believe that there was no warning signs. And speaking of warning signs, I want to go and I've shared this website with you guys, and I don't know if you guys have been, well, we just had a 4.5 in Guro, Mexico, a 2.0 in Canada, and a 5.4 in Greenland. Kilgore, Greenland, I think is what it said. Anyway, I want to point out just off of the island of Madagascar, there is, I guess it's a typhoon over there, but there's no mention of it anywhere, guys. But here, I want to show you guys this so you can see for yourselves. I will share this link again just in case for those that are new that didn't get to see. But you can see, and it's it says it's a Cat 3. And I looked to see if I could find mention of this anywhere, and I could not. I could not find it anywhere. I looked on all of the other listed sites, but I wanted just to point this out to you guys. If you go down, okay, so 5 minutes ago, there was a 5.3 in the Australia and New Zealand area. And it said 5 minutes ago today, it was reported at 11:58. So, and 10 minutes ago, there was a 2.3 in Alaska. These are earthquakes, guys. And there was a 5.4 an hour ago in Greenland. and so, and a 4.9 in Greenland as well. But I don't know if they downgraded it because it's reported by, well, one's the MSC and the USGS. So there's a couple of earthquakes that probably is the same one, and they just come in. So it's probably just one earthquake, but there was just another one that just showed up. I don't know if it might have been on there, if it's this one or not, but we'll wait and see. It'll update here in a second. Sometimes it takes a couple of minutes, but those were the red highlighted things on my screen when I clicked on there. But I want to draw your attention, if you will. There is tsunami information on here, and on this tsunami information, the only thing that is mentioned here, guys, is from the in November, 25 days ago, and it says the tsunami was not observed, but there was a warning, I guess, or some kind of tsunami information out there, and there was two, but they both were like in Indonesia, so I don't know if it was the same one. No, they were two different ones, because one was at 5:59 and the other one was 4:17. So anyway, there's not an update for those, for that, but you could see that it was clearly on the radar. But if you go down here, there is all of this stuff in yellow and red, and it gives you the volcano information. And there was in New Zealand, Lake Taupo is the name of the volcano. There was actually activity there, and it was today at 9:14 p.m. And then you go down to the other, the Wakamara, and that was the volcano that we were talking about, and there was an update on it as well, and there was activity December 9th at 9:14 p.m. And so and I want to go ahead and mention this. There is at the Yellowstone Caldera, North America, USA, state of Wyoming, there's been some kind of activity there recorded on this site December 9th, 2019 at 6:03 p.m. And then, I mean, there's just other stuff, but it's always worthy to know. But see, if you can see this, I mean, surely they have to have, you know, a lot better technology than I have, and can produce, you know, much, you know, much better reports and give better information than just what I have. And it just doesn't make sense at all that they would not, you know, have a foresight that something was going to happen. It just doesn't make sense. So I am extremely upset that there was so many people there, and that, you know, there was no warnings. I mean, we have tornado warnings, we have hurricane warnings, we have all these other warnings, but again, there has not been a warning for that. And then again, I want to draw your attention one more time back to where it shows on this radar. Now, and it says December 9th, 9:39, and see, you can click on it and you can get the information about it, okay, itself. And that's what the little white thing, it says it's a tropical storm report. It's a category severe cyclonic storm in the Indian Ocean, December 9th at 9:39 a.m. It tells you the speed is 19 kilometers, the wind is up to 148 kilometers, and gusts are up to 185. And then you can click on it and it'll give you more details. And the storm name is Belina. The date of development was on the 5th of December, so it was a quick and fast-moving storm. It's in the area of the Indian Ocean. So that is all the information that I can give you guys in reference to this tropical storm report that they have that's going on over here. But it's, like I said, it shows a Category 3. Well, thank you, Joe, so very much. Anyway, so I just wanted to, you know, bring that up because obviously, you know, they're not giving warnings for whatever reason whatsoever. And they're not if they are, they're not paying attention to these warnings. Anyway, then we're going to switch gears again. Then from Zero Hedge, I guess I skipped this article here. It says there's undeniable evidence that an explosive classified documents reveal that the Afghan war mass deception. So now we have proof. What are they going to do about it? Probably nothing. And what's already being held as a defining and explosive Pentagon Papers moment, a cache of previously classified documents obtained by the Washington Post, show top Pentagon leaders continuously lied to the public about the progress of the now 18-year-long Afghan war. The some 2,000 pages of the notes from the interviewers of senior officials who have shaped the U.S. strategy in the Afghanistans confirm that senior U.S. officials failed to tell the truth about the war in Afghanistan through the 18-year campaign, making rosy pronouncements they knew to be false, hiding unmistakable evidence the war had become unwinnable, according to the Bombshell Post report. The internal interviews and statements were unearthed via Freedom of Information Act request and span the Bush, Obama, and Trump administrators. The trove further confirms that the U.S. leaders knew vast amounts of money was being wasted in a futile attempt to westernize the nation. Watchdog groups commonly estimate that the U.S. spending on the war has hit $1 trillion by the end of 2019. More importantly, Americans' endless war has cost at least 2,351 American lives and over 20,000 wounded. And I think that is so telling, guys, to have so many lost lives. That is the most important thing, and so many wounded. And for what? Because they want to lie, make crap up. And of course, they've been caught, but what's going to happen? Not a damn thing. The International Pentagon Project, conducted by the Office of the Special Inspector General for the Afghanistan Reconstruction, SIGAR, had sought to get an honest assessment as possible as to the status of America's longest-running quagmire, panning multiple administrations. It was to be a classified lessons learned assessment of sorts to prevent future missteps. What did we get for 110 effort? Was it worth $1 trillion? One retired Navy SEAL who had advised the Bush and Obama administration observed in one of the documents, after the killing of Osama bin Laden, I said that Osama was probably laughing in his watery grave considering how much we have spent on Afghanistan. Another top official, former White House Afghan Wars Cesar Douglas Lute under Bush and Obama, confessed we were devoid of a fundamental understanding of the Afghanistan. We didn't know what we were doing. He added that we didn't have the foggiest notion of what we were undertaking after the 2001 invasion. If the American people knew the magnitude of this dysfunction, 2,400 lives lost, he added. Two major consistent themes from this document are the manipulation on a mass scale of statistics fed to the public in order to hide the true disastrous nature of the war, and the U.S. leaders turning a blind eye to a large-scale theft of U.S. taxpayer dollars by corrupt Afghan officials. And this just goes par the course, I believe, to tell you, in all honesty. Here we have them, again, we have to speak of this debacle impeachment crap going on. How much money have they wasted harassing and going after our president? It was 43 million, I believe, or 33 million, something along that lines. It was in the millions, okay? I don't want to quote a wrong number, of course, but it was up there for the Mueller report. Now we have all these hearings and things of that nature, and so that number just continues to rise. And who is paying for all of this, guys? The manipulation on a mass scale of statistics fed to the people in order to hide the true disastrous nature of war, and the U.S. leaders turning a blind eye. They turn a blind eye to everything, guys. U.S. aid was looted with impunity, according to the released documents, and provide undeniable evidence that top defense officials knew years of rosy public statements with a mountain of lies. You think? I don't think they're capable of telling the truth. Just saying. Every data point was altered to present the best picture possible. Altered, imagine that. Kind of like the OIG report, I do believe. Altered. Bob Crowley, an Army colonel and senior counterinsurgency advisor to the U.S. military commanders, testified. Over 400 people close to the decision-making process were interviewed as part of the internal DoD investigation. However, among those 366 names were redacted, given that more damning testimony was given that the Inspector General deemed they should be treated as whistleblowers and informants. But for all the hand-wringing and outrage Monday, WAPO bombshell will unleash this week. It must be remembered to the establishment and both parties have consistently pushed to stay at war, not to mention going to war in the first place. An independent journalist, David Meisner, observers of the new Afghan papers, it remains that the U.S. politicians lied to stay at war every time. The real crime was going to war in the first place, and almost no U.S. politician, pundits, and or journos with large platforms opposed the war. And then there's a video, but I'm not going to play the video, guys. But there is a video. So again, I encourage anyone and everyone to go and check out that video. And it looks like I had lost connection on Josh Who TV, but I had to sign out and sign back in, guys. Sorry for those that are watching over here or will watch later. Okay. So then we're going to talk about this RT article that says Secret Service logs disappeared because they showed collusion with the right-wing mob. Blumenthal tells RT. Journalist Max Blumenthal says the assault charges against him have been dropped by the U.S. government, partially because the case would have turned into a great embarrassment for the Secret Service. Blumenthal was the subject to an early morning arrest in October on a 5-month-old warrant, which stemmed from an accusation against him to the fellow activist Ben Rubenstein. A Venezuelan opposition activist said they attacked her when they were delivering food to people who took cover in Venezuela embassy in Washington, D.C., trying to prevent supporters of the U.S.-backed self-proclaimed President Juan Guaido from taking over the place. The journalist says the charge was bogus from the start, but his defense took a surprising turn when Blumenthal's lawyer requested exploratory evidence in the form of logs from the U.S. Secret Service, whose agents were present at the scene. If agents failed to call an ambulance after a violent incident resulting in an injury, a lack of such a call would indicate that the allegations were false, he reasoned. However, the logs for the day were completely missing. Oh, imagine that, guys. Imagine that. Blumenthal believes that the Secret Service obstructed the request because the logs would confirm that they were acting hand in glove with the crowd trying to take over the diplomatic mission, he told RT. They wouldn't do no such thing, guys. Really? No, not our Secret Service, not our FBI. What I think could be the case here is they are concerned that their collusion with this white ring band of hooligans who were used to do what the Secret Service was legally forbidden from doing, which is prevent food and medicine from getting into the embassy, would have been exposed, he said. The Gray Zone journalist said he was obviously targeted with a false accusation because he personally and his colleagues were vocal opponents of Guaido. And I could probably saying his name wrong, but I'm calling him Guaido, okay? And his Washington-backed attempts to overthrow the Venezuelan government. The opposition activists simply use the friendly U.S. government to harass their critics, and there needs to be a pushback against such malpractices, he believes. It's really scary that someone could be hauled out of his house by a team of cops, listed falsely as an armed and dangerous, and then jailed for 2 days and possibly put on trial because someone who doesn't like their political views decides to level a false allegation against him, he said. There has to be some deterrence against this happening again. The confrontation at the embassy happened between April and May and resulted in a pro-Guaido crowd taking over the building. 2 Gray Zone journalists were covering the tense standoff from inside the embassy. And I agree, they have to stop this kind of stuff. I mean, but, you know, whatever it takes, I guess, to continue to make money, to continue to, you know, exercise the brute force that that we have, you know, in these neighboring countries and things of that nature. It's just insane, guys. Truly insane. What do we got going on over here? Yes, indeed, Scan, I do. Thank you so much.
Over that plate, okay? So you don't drip it everywhere. Okay?
Awesome stuff. Yes, indeed. Okay, so then, again, back to the Rudy Giuliani Ukraine situation. I do. Before we touch on this one, I have this article that I found. I thought it was rather funny. I mean, on a serious note, I think it's a smart move, but I got a good chuckle out of it. So this actually was posted a couple of days ago, and it came from Brett Baer, and it says Virginia sheriff vows to deputize thousands to defend gun rights. Culpeper County Sheriff Scott Jenkins says he will deputize thousands to defend gun rights should incoming Democrats use their legislative positions to enact more gun control in Virginia. On December 4th, 2019, Jenkins used a Facebook post to thank the Culpeper County Board of Supervisors for standing with the dozens of other counties that have declared their intention to defend the constitutional right to keep and bear arms. But his joy was mixed with the somber warnings. Every sheriff and Commonwealth attorney in Virginia will see the consequences if our General Assembly passes further unnecessary gun restrictions. Red flag laws without due process will create an enormous conflict as well. America has more than citizens, and murder has long been illegal. At best, the proposed gun restrictions will disarm or handicap our law-abiding in their defense and possibly cause a criminal to choose another tool for evil. He added, I remain very optimistic that our General Assembly will not pass the proposed bill. Obviously, if passed, there are many of us willing to challenge these laws through the courts. In addition, if necessary, I plan to properly screen and deputize thousands of our law-abiding citizens to protect their constitutional right to own firearms. So I guess somebody has come up with a creative way to uphold our Second Amendment right. And I say kudos to Virginia, to that deputy. Jenkins made clear he is talking about doing nothing less than calling up the militia to defend God-given rights. He quoted Richard Henry Lee from 1788 saying, a militia when properly formed are in fact the people themselves and include all men capable of bearing arms. And it anyway, so that's that article. But I just thought I saw that and I thought that was, you know, pretty awesome. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you guys. Alrighty, so now we will move forward now with two articles about Rudy Giuliani and the Ukraine investigation stars. Again, these articles, I might not read all of them, but I will try and touch the highlights on them. I hear you, Carol. It is crazy. It says KYIV Ukraine. The witness stand with their right hands raised, as if being sworn in for all well impeachment hearing. Only this is not in Congress. The cast of obscure Ukrainians, a group seen at home as odious and discredited, are appearing in a television show with President Donald Trump's personal lawyer, Rudolph Giuliani, in what he cast as an investigation that parallels the process in Congress. It would only be credible in a parallel world. And Andriy Telisko, a former Ukraine diplomat, has been helping Giuliani produce the show for OAN, the One American Network news network, a conservative channel now favored by Trump. OAN is publicizing the two-part broadcast this weekend, promising witnesses who destroy the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff's baseless impeachment case against President Trump. Watch top Ukraine officials testify under oath. The side of the story Schiff doesn't want you to hear, proclaims the YouTube promo for the broadcast. But top officials say definitely are not. Indeed, Giuliani's choice of guest stars in this would-be reality show and his wider cast of sources caused shock among many in KYIV's establishment, who know their questionable backgrounds is considerable detail. What Giuliani collaborates have in common in their willingness to testify in his parallel proceeding, or possibly the impeachment trial in the Senate, in the improbable event that they are called or contribute in other ways to the Trump cause. Some of them have been doing so for years in Ukraine. Their testimony won't accommodate President Donald Trump's favor requested during their infamous July 25th phone conversation with Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump and his representatives made it clear they wanted an announcement by Zelensky and Biden investigation, and that has not happened. But will Giuliani's machinations help put pressure on Zelensky's finally to come around? That remains an open question. Those working with Giuliani include a member of Ukraine parliament, the Rada, who is in Zelensky's party. Trump asked Zelensky for two things: to investigate the Bidens and to explore the debunked theory that Ukraine meddled significantly in the 2016 election. He asked Zelensky to find the hidden DNC server mentioned in the Russian propaganda in order to discredit Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report, indicting 12 members of the Russian military intelligence, the GRU, for hacking the Democratic National Committee. The server, they say, the Ukraine has it, Trump told Zelensky. But Ukrainian independent corruption and hacking experts share doubts about Giuliani's sources, intentions, and so-called evidence against Joe Biden and his son. They also have no substation of Russia's aggressively propagated conspiracy theory. Trump also asked Zelensky to work with Giuliani. These requests coming at a time when the vital military support for Ukraine was frozen and no date was set for a promised White House meeting pending Zelensky's cooperation, and what triggered impeachment proceedings against Trump for abuse of power. He is accused of using the authority to the United States government to further his own personal political agenda. None of these requests have been filed, and there has been a strong belief among Ukraine's independent corruption fighters that President Zelensky is not going to take Trump's side in the impeachment process. Last week, Zelensky studiously avoided Giuliani. But all I can say is that we know that Zelensky has spoken out, even if he doesn't agree with everything that Trump has done or said. He has already spoken and said there was no push, no quid pro quo, none of that. So, and this article just continues on. But again, I don't really like the Daily Beast. I do believe that it slants to the left, but here you have Giuliani, which is the president's attorney, and that's what everybody, they keep, he's over here, he's half cocked, and he's doing this all for himself, and it's to gather this information that he's going to need, and people need to realize that. And the man is not insane, he's not corrupt, he is out there trying to gather the evidence to put it out there for everyone to see and know. Then, of course, there's another article from the Daily Beast that says the worst thing about Rudy Giuliani's trip to the Ukraine. It says it's about the Ukraine and America coming together. That's a strange claim from the not-so-rogue Rudy, whose deluded crusade for promote on a political opponents. Donald Trump is tearing apart the U.S.-Ukraine alliance, and it's especially cruel to make it just days before the Ukraine's new president sits across from President Vladimir Putin for the first full-scale peace talks to be held in 3 years. Let's see. I'm trying to see if it has like a list. Yeah, it's a short read, so we'll read it. Try to read it anyway. It says, Surely Giuliani realized that it's best, it would look suspicious for the president's personal attorney to swoop in and amplify the Kremlin propaganda about the ghost of conspiracies passed at a time when Ukraine needs strong, clear U.S. support. But as we know, Trump never liked Ukraine very much, and he is rather fond of Putin. While the official reason for Giuliani's visit was an investigative documentary on the corruption made by the pro-Trump One American News Network, an excuse widely seen as a cover so he could continue seeking out compromise on Trump's foes without fear of a blowback. President Trump gave away the ruse on Saturday. He's going to make a report, I think the Attorney General and to Congress, Trump told reporters. He said he's a lot of good information. The Russia's state media was quick to pick up on Trump's declaration, with an emphasis on the good information. It feeds perfectly into the narrative that the Kremlin has been using to gaslight the Ukrainians ever since the Russian forces invaded Crimea in 2014 and used proxies to take over parts of the eastern Ukraine known as Donbas. Your attempts to move closer to the West are futile. You're too dysfunctional for anyone in the West to have any real use for you. The Giuliani-Trump foreign policy did not find used for the Ukraine, exploiting it to serve as a set for their ongoing reality TV stunts. Giuliani didn't even attempt to hide the fact that he was in Kyiv to drag the country back to America's domestic political affairs, handpicking the most dubious of characters to provide evidence for the clumsily named OAN documentary, The Ukrainian Witness Destroys Shift case, exclusively with Rudy Giuliani. Nor did he bother to give so much as a nod to the peace talks that began Monday, a make or break moment for Zelensky, who's dealing with Putin, have already sparked massive protest and fueled fears among many Ukrainians, and will catapult to Moscow and let the Kremlin get away with more land. Some in Ukraine have already been asking, could Trump's personal lawyer have flown into Kyiv less than a week before the summit in Paris in order to clinch concessions for the Kremlin behind the scenes? Did he perhaps convey a mobster-like message to the presidential aide that, so to speak, Zelensky should go down in the third round? Just by visiting Kyiv on an eve of talks, Giuliani has planted the seed of doubt among the public that already fears Zelensky will be compelled to make further concessions to Putin because he knows the U.S. no longer stands behind him. Any concessions at all Zelensky gives to Moscow now run that risk of making him look like a puppet for both Trump and the Kremlin. And the way you look at it, Giuliani's trip was a slap in the face to Ukraine, and that much worse when you look back on his role outlined so thoroughly in the House of Representatives impeachment inquiry, laying the groundwork for Trump to pressure Zelensky by withholding military aid and an endorsement that would have been provided by the White House meeting. Through this whole mess, Zelensky, as politely as possible, has made it clear he does not want Ukraine to be dragged into America's domestic political soap opera and would rather see the focus where it should be, on the fact that more than 13,000 people have been killed as a result of Russian-sponsored aggression in Donbas, and soldiers and civilians alike continue to be blown up on a weekly basis. Instead, Giuliani just gave Putin the reassurance that one of Ukraine's biggest allies have been moved to more pressing matters, helping, in the words of the House Judiciary Committee, the president who mistakes himself for a monarch. And our president does not mistake himself for a monarch, but as you can see the clear bias in this reporting, of course, they don't want to mention all the evidence and the proof that there is out there that shows the corruption that has taken place in Ukraine. And why would we not want to investigate? In fact, it's Section 2, Article 3, or I might have it vice versa. It is the president's constitutional duty and right to ask people who the United States pays aid to, guys, to investigate corruption. It is his constitutional duty. So all of this mess of how this quid pro quo is out there and being misconstrued and misrepresented is a hogwash. It is the president's constitutional duty. So if anything, they are trying to impeach the president for him doing his job. I'm so sick and tired of these Democrats sitting up there in Washington destroying the Constitution. And that's exactly what they are doing. They have destroyed, they have made a mockery out of the United States. They have proven to the world that we no longer have a constitution, period. And I have shown this many a times. When our president does not have due process, does not have his, cannot exercise his Bill of Rights, what does that mean for you and I? What does it mean? I ask you. Anyway, I digress, guys. It's mind-boggling. Just all the stuff that gets over and over on us, and the way that we the people are we're just twiddling our thumbs, I guess, and we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. I guess when they're impeaching the president, maybe we might get angry and stand up and say something. Again, I want to draw everybody's attention back to what Owen did today. I give that man a hand. I think it was rather amazing, and I applaud him. And I encourage more people to do things like that. Get out there. Make your voice be heard. And Heritage Karma has shared a telephone number to voice your opinion. Call 202-224-3121. Again, that number is 202-224-3121. To voice your opinion on the massive waste that the taxpayer monies that the Dems have spent. Anyway, I hope everyone has just had a blessed day, and we'll continue to watch as this all of this unfolds. And like always, when there's more headlines, guys, I'll bring it to you guys. That's the headlines that I have, and I do hope everyone has a blessed day. Today is Monday, so there's no Marf. I think West Virginia has Mental Monday or Madness Monday. I can't even keep up with everybody's stuff, but I believe West Virginia will be doing a show today. At least I hope so. She seems to be doing shows that I keep missing. So I hope everyone checks out West Virginia Prepared Mind. And I will be doing a Bible study for those that are here for the first time. I do a Bible study every night at 8 o'clock. I hope to see everyone at the Bible study. If not, thank you guys. I love each and every one of you. And again, when there's more news to come, I will bring it to you guys straight. And I will. I love each and every one of you. And we'll see you at 8 o'clock for Bible study. And if not, I'll see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock for headlines. God bless each and every one of you. Y'all have a blessed day now. Bye. Thank you, Scan. Much love, girl.